Hey there, Bagelites. This is Ed, and welcome back to another edition of Bagel on Booze. We're in the middle of October, middle of getting ready for Halloween season. Today's beer fits right in the mood with everything. I probably could have waited to taste test this one a little later. You'll see why when we reveal out what it is. But I guess maybe October 13th, Friday the 13th specifically, kind of put us in the mood, getting us real ready for trick-or-treating. Whatever. My show, my rules. It is what it is. We're definitely going to go ahead, do out a taste test, smell test, and definitely the chug test. But before we get into that, make sure you click on that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with my latest beer reviews, more you know moments, ranking chugs, chug tests, and what have you. So with that, let's get started. So for this week's beer, we're sticking close to home. Last week we were in Baltimore, Maryland. This week we're going up to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And we're specifically going to hit Evil Genius. And with that, we are going to be doing their chocolate pumpkin porter. This is a porter, clocks in at about 7.8%. The beer itself from the brewer states it's got tones of cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, and chocolate, which we would expect out in these pumpkin beers and chocolates. Question is, just like many pumpkin beers, are we going to get something that tastes like a candle mixed with chocolate in this case, or is it going to be something that really hits the mark? Last week's chocolate stout that we had really didn't do too much. We'll throw that up to maybe being past due, but with this one, we'll see. Hopefully got high hopes and we could get redemption on this one. But before we get into that, it's not Bagel on Booze without the more you know moment. So for today's the more you know moment, I figure I'll go right after the title of the beer and trick or treat. It's almost the time for it, so why not? I kind of could look at it a whole bunch of different ways, but I guess we'll kind of keep it simple and not go through the whole 2,000 years of Halloween and everything else. Be a real long freaking episode. But with that, it's ultimately not known where the term trick-or-treating, kind of the phrase itself, originated or when it or where. But what can definitely be agreed upon, as I said, is that Halloween can trace its roots back some 2,000 years to the Celtic celebration of Samhain. And, we'll fast forward a little bit. Catholic Church decides to get hands on everything, pagan, and creating these new holidays out of pagan traditions. And they ultimately split the feast into the holidays of Halloween and All Saints' Day. And it's, the practice of trick-or-treating itself can kind of be dated back to the Middle Ages with the guising or disguising traditions. And this would be where children and sometimes adults would dress up in costumes, regardless of whatever the heck they dressed up in. They would go around door to door begging for food or money, and in exchange they would offer out songs and prayers for the deceased. This practice became known as souling, this exchange, whatever, practice, exchange. So for here in the United States, the popularity of trick-or-treating, Halloween, and the festivities as we know it today, really we could kind of trace back to the mid-19th century with the immigration of the Irish and Scotch here to the United States. They bring their traditions of souling here to the United States, and it's really more a secular pastime associated with their communities, and then it starts to take a twist with the young people no longer promising prayers, but rather singing songs, telling jokes, staging doorstep performances, where this tradition kind of morphs and becomes known by the term of mumming. Obviously, big thing here in the Philadelphia, Delaware region with the New Year's Day Mummers Parade. So little did I know that that's kind of where that term kind of comes from. But another bonus, the more you know moment. We start to see the first iterations of the term trick or treat being coined in, of all places, not here in the United States, but actually Canada, when several newspapers used the variations of the term. It wasn't here in the United States that we get our first real recorded example of this till 1928 in Michigan's Bay City Times. And as I said, the acceptance of trick-or-treating starts to grow out from the Irish and Scottish communities, becomes more normalized, not necessarily a secular holiday, and the Depression hits, World War II hits, and it really kind of starts to take a pause. The biggest reason to this is sugar rationing. No sugar, no treats, no candy. And you can kind of see how it all starts to go downhill with that. So fast forward a little bit more, and once we get through World War II, sugar rationing ends in 1947. Candy companies really start to capitalize on this, and it's the post-war World War II baby boom that we start to see, trick-or-treating and Halloween as we come to know it today really start to cement itself here in the United States. But it's not really until 1951, 1952 when it really firmly takes hold here in the United States. And we can put this on first in 1951 with the Peanuts cartoon when they roll out 3 Halloween themed strips. But that's the first kind of real popularizing of it. And then again, in 1952, we could thank Disney, of all people, for really kind of putting everything into the forefront. They released out an 8-minute short called Donald Duck Trick or Treat, and it's in this where kids actually see the full-blown process of how to trick and treat, with Donald's nephews doing the tricking, Donald interested in the treats, and it all kind of goes in through that. So with that, after that, as we kind of say, the rest is history. So with that, the more you know moment is history. You got a little bit of trick-or-treat history in there. So it's now time to crack open the beer, get our taste test, smell test, and chug test going on.
I drink and I know things.
Okay, so we got everything all poured out, and as we would come to expect on our porters, very nice and dark, good, solid, firm head that sets up on there. Of course, it's shrank a little bit since we poured it out. If I can get my one out of the frame, so get our can back in order. There. Give it the old sniff test, and right off the bat, do get some pumpkin kind of overtone on there. Not too forward. Not getting so much of the chocolate. Very kind of basic. Do get some of that spice smell from the pumpkin that coming through. So I guess we'll go ahead and give it the old taste test and see how it shapes up on that. So right off of the bat, get a good roasted taste of the whole body of it. Definitely get the chocolate coming through, definitely on the backside, off of that swig. The pumpkin, it is not forward on that. It's very subtle. I get more of the roasted tones of the cocoa. The chocolate, we'll get another old swig, and yeah, it's definitely kind of a very balanced flavor, that profile that comes across. Nothing's really pushing out, nothing's really jumping out at me on either side, which is good. Like I said, you get some of these pumpkins and they are just so pumpkin forward. They taste like candy, taste like wax, whatever the heck you want to call it. But I guess I didn't really expect that because I didn't get that off of the smell, which is good. And the chocolate definitely adds in a different subtleness to it on both sides, and neither side really dominates. So it's a good blend of the chocolate and pumpkin spices that come into play on this. And I'm not really finding much bad on this one. It definitely is well balanced, fits the bill. It's a good solid beer in my opinion. There's not much to pick apart on this one. It's a good solid dark beer, well balanced. Nothing's really overpowering on it. So with that, I guess, from a rating, I'll look to give it. We'll give it a 4. Nice solid 4. 5. Maybe if I got a little bit more of the chocolate and the pumpkin kind of pushing forward, there still could be a little bit more, in my opinion, to bring it forward. While it's there, it's more on the subtle side. It's not overpowering, which I guess to some people they would really like that. Me, I kind of want a little bit more full-bodiedness to my beer, especially with the porters and stouts. I want a nice robust flavor profile with that. So I guess with that, might as well time to find out if this will chug. All right, it is chugging time. We're going to find out if those subtle flavors of the chocolate and pumpkin that we so liked when we did the taste testing, if they come forward and maybe we do get the full-bodiedness that I'm looking for off of this beer, or if it just kind of sits there and kind of sits on the back of your tongue. Who knows? Only one way to find out is by chugging. So with that, it's bottoms up. Cheers. Yep, it will chug. Woo. Not bad. Yeah, I was expecting kind of more flavor burst to come through on it. It pretty much kind of stays. Ooh, well, yep, there we go. Again, it's that kind of the back of the throat feel that hits it. Definitely do get a little bit more. Still not a huge blast forward. This on the chug test, I get more pumpkin than I got out of the taste test. The chocolate roastedness, not so much off of the chug. More the pumpkin side of this beer, which still not disgusting, not candle-like. So I guess as a kind of final conclusion with that, this definitely sets up as a real good, solid beer. Didn't disappoint. It's well balanced on everything. Good subtle flavors. Definitely something to sit side. Maybe while you're out handing out candy for trick or treat. If you're really into it, you can hand it out to the parents. Give them their treat while the kids get their treats. But up to you what you want to do. So with this beer, I kind of was not expecting a huge amount of it. It definitely sets up pretty well. All in all, definitely a good beer. I will be picking this up again, and I will be drinking it again. So with that, I'm done, we're done, this is done, and I thank you all for tuning in to another edition of Bagel on Booze, and we will catch you later.